On March 30, 2026, Australia's National Auditor published its verdict on the largest armoured vehicle purchase in the country's history. And the verdict was that the procurement had been only partly effective. 7.3 billion Australian dollars approved, 129 vehicles ordered, 2 technical risks still rated very high, more than 2 years after the contract was signed. Independent reviewers had already warned the Department of Defense that delivering the complete fleet by the end of 2028 would be a significant, if not impossible, challenge. The vehicles at the center of that audit are meant to replace an aluminium-hulled carrier that entered Australian service in 1964, a design that carried Australian infantry into the rubber at Long Tan and remains in the order of battle 6 decades later. The winner was the AS21 Redback, a Korean design assembled in a new factory outside Geelong. The loser was the German Lynx KF41, the vehicle almost everyone expected to win. And the audit confirmed something the announcement never said plainly. The Redback was the more expensive bid. So why did Australia choose it? Australia took delivery of its first M113 carriers in 1964 and kept receiving them until 1979. The vehicle earned its place in Australian military memory on August 18, 1966. That afternoon, a company of 108 men from the 6th Battalion Royal Australian Regiment was pinned down in a rubber plantation at Long Tan by a far larger enemy force, low on ammunition, fighting in monsoon rain. 10 carriers from 3-Troop 1st Armoured Personnel Carrier Squadron under Lieutenant Adrian Roberts forced their way across flooded creeks in failing light with a relief company aboard. Their heavy machine guns caught enemy troops moving to close the encirclement. The armor broke the battle open. Roberts was mentioned in dispatches. 6 decades later, the same basic hull is still in service, and that is the problem. Project Land 106 began in 1992 as a modest interim upgrade and grew into something close to a rebuild. Under a contract signed with Tenix in 2002, later inherited by BAE Systems, more than 430 vehicles were cut apart, stretched by 666 millimeters, given a 6th road wheel, new engines and drivetrains, and a small electric turret carrying a single 12.7 millimeter machine gun. The work took roughly a decade and approached 1 billion Australian dollars. It produced a better M113. It did not produce a fighting vehicle. The upgraded carrier weighs around 18 tons, and that weight buys protection against rifle fire and shell splinters, not against modern anti-tank missiles. It has no active protection system, so an incoming warhead is met with armor alone. Its single machine gun can suppress a tree line, but it cannot destroy a bunker or an armored vehicle, which means infantry dismount into fire the carrier cannot answer. And its mobility no longer matches the tanks it accompanies, so armored battle groups move at the speed of their weakest vehicle. Australia's own auditor recorded that the fleet essentially represents a capability gap for mounted close combat. Then the ground shifted twice. In June 2022, Australia began donating M113 vehicles to Ukraine, sending away hulls it could not replace. In April 2023, the Defense Strategic Review rewrote the Army's purpose entirely, pushing it toward littoral operations, long-range fires, and amphibious maneuver. The review cut the infantry fighting vehicle buy from as many as 450 vehicles to 129, from 3 mechanized battalions to 1, redirecting the money to rocket artillery and landing craft. And in the same breath, it ordered the Survivor accelerated by 2 years. The vehicle chosen to fill that gap weighs roughly 42 tons in combat order, which is more than twice the mass of the carrier it replaces. That weight is armor, and it is what allows the vehicle to move with tanks into direct fire rather than stopping short of it. It carries 3 crew and 8 dismounted infantry, so a rifle section arrives intact in 1 vehicle rather than split across 2. Power comes from an 8-cylinder MTU diesel rated at around 1,000 horsepower, paired with an Allison transmission, giving a top speed near 65 kilometers per hour and a road range of roughly 520 kilometers. The power pack is rated to handle around 47 tons, which means the design has growth margin for the extra armor that every fighting vehicle eventually receives. In ARM hydropneumatic suspension units absorb ground shock rather than transmitting it into the hull, and that matters for crews who must fight after hours of cross-country movement rather than arrive concussed and exhausted. The tracks are composite rubber rather than steel. That cuts several tons of rotating mass, reduces fuel burn, and lowers the maintenance burden on a fleet that Australia must sustain across enormous distances with a small logistics footprint. It also drops the noise and vibration inside the hull sharply. Hanwha states that a section commander can hold a normal conversation with his soldiers while the vehicle is moving, which means orders can be given and understood in the minutes before the ramp drops. The turret is Australian, designed and built by Electro-Optic Systems in Canberra. Its main armament is a Bushmaster Mark 44S cannon in 30mm caliber, and Northrop Grumman states this weapon family is in service with 19 nations, which places Australian ammunition inside an established Allied supply chain rather than a national one. There is a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun for infantry targets and 2 Spike L R2 missiles for armor, giving one vehicle the reach to kill a main battle tank at several kilometers. And there is one design choice inside that turret that costs almost nothing to activate, yet changes what the vehicle can destroy. The cannon can be converted from 30mm to 40mm by exchanging 3 components. No new turret, no new fire control, 3 parts, and the round becomes heavy enough to defeat armor that the smaller caliber cannot touch, which means Australia has bought a growth path rather than a fixed capability. Protection goes beyond steel. The Israeli Iron Fist active protection system detects an incoming rocket or missile and intercepts it before impact, which means survival no longer depends purely on how thick the plate is. Hanwha claims protection at the highest published NATO standard, and that claim is a vendor figure rather than an independently confirmed one. The crew also wear helmet-mounted iron vision displays that stitch external camera feeds into a full surrounding view, so a commander can look through the hull as though the armor were not there. Under fire and closed down, the crew keep the awareness they would otherwise lose the moment the hatches shut. If you want defense analysis built on verified documents rather than press releases, subscribe to British Warforce before the comparison begins. What follows is where this decision was actually made. The competition opened with a request for tender on August 24, 2018, and 4 bids came in. By September 2019, the field was down to 2. General Dynamics offered a vehicle from the ASCOD and Ajax family, and it was assessed as unsuitable for Australian requirements, particularly transportability by Australia's own amphibious ships and transport aircraft, a decisive constraint for a force that must move by sea across the Pacific. BAE Systems offered the CV90, a genuinely proven Nordic design with real combat pedigree, and it was reported as too expensive for the budget available. That left the Redback and the Lynx. Both then went through a risk mitigation activity that ran from 2019 to late 2021. 3 prototypes from each company arrived in early 2021 and were tested at Puckapunyal against blast, lethality, mobility, and human factors criteria. The trial's platoon commander, Major Joel Sloan, described the process bluntly, saying the trials involved literally blowing the vehicles up to test what they could withstand. In December 2021, both contenders were loaded aboard Australian amphibious ships to prove they could actually deploy. The Lynx deserves an honest hearing because it was the favorite and it was not a weak vehicle. It weighs around 44 tons, carries the Lance 2.0 turret, and runs a Liebherr engine of roughly 1,140 horsepower through a proven Rank transmission. Its defining feature is modularity, with mission kits that let one hull become an infantry carrier, a command post, an ambulance, or a recovery vehicle, which is a powerful argument for a small army that must do many jobs with few platforms. Rheinmetall had already won Land 400 Phase 2, delivering 211 Boxer combat reconnaissance vehicles under a contract worth around 4.28 billion Australian dollars, and had built a purpose-made military vehicle facility at Redback in Queensland. Its turret shared components with the Boxer. On paper, the incumbent advantage was overwhelming. Hungary ordered more than 200 Lynx vehicles in 2020, Italy followed, and Ukraine has taken examples into a live war. It's still lost. The final source evaluation ranked the Redback first against all 6 consolidated operational needs, covering protection, mobility, lethality, command and control, sustainability, and suitability, and judged it to offer the best cost per unit of capability despite the higher price. The reasons run in one direction. The Redback was designed specifically for this Australian requirement rather than adapted to it. Its turret is Australian. Its protection performance in trials was assessed as superior, and Hanwha was already building the AS-9 Huntsman self-propelled howitzer and the AS-10 resupply vehicle in Geelong under a separate program, offering a shared power pack and a single production line rather than a new one. Where the decision is genuinely contested is in how the money was compared. The auditor found that pricing adjustments were applied inconsistently between the two tenderers. Provisions for management challenges worth $308.6 million and for schedule slippage worth $545 million were added to Rheinmetall's price, but not to Hanwha's, understating the Korean bid by 852.6 million Australian dollars. Assessed on the same basis, Hanwha's offer would have been about $1.15 billion more expensive than Rheinmetall's, rather than the $298 million recorded. The auditor also concluded that defense moved away from its original intention to buy a mature, proven platform and instead pursued a more developmental acquisition, increasing integration and schedule risk, and that these risks were not clearly communicated to government. Defense rejects the framing, stating the Redback was selected through a rigorous tender evaluation and offered the best capability and the best value for money. There is a further uncomfortable number. When the fleet was cut from 467 vehicles to 129, Hanwha's modeled price fell only from about $19.6 billion to about $6.6 billion, which the auditor read as evidence that much of the acquisition cost was never sensitive to fleet size at all. Australia removed most of the vehicles and almost none of the overhead. The industrial argument, at least, is visible on the ground. Hanwha's Armored Vehicle Center of Excellence sits in the Avalon precinct outside Geelong. Its first stage opened on August 23, 2024 at a cost of $170 million across 32,000 square meters with a 1,200-meter test track and a deep water fording facility. A second stage, completed in February 2026, took the total investment to $220 million. It is Hanwha's first production plant outside Korea. The Australian government forecasts around 2,100 jobs, including roughly 1,800 direct positions, with steel from Wollongong, hulls from Tasmania, and turrets from Canberra. That factory also builds 30 AS-9 howitzers and 15 AS-10 resupply vehicles, and the shared power pack across both fleets is the quiet financial argument for the whole decision. One engine family means one spares pool, one training pipeline, and one maintenance skill set across two vehicle types, and sustainment consumes far more money over 30 years than purchase ever does. The wider context is a Korean export surge that has reshaped the arms market. Poland signed a framework worth around $12.4 billion United States dollars in 2022, with the first tranche of $5.76 billion covering tanks and howitzers, and a further contract worth $6.5 billion followed in August 2025. Korean defense exports hit a record $17.3 billion United States dollars in 2022, and Seoul has set a public goal of becoming the world's fourth largest arms exporter. Australia is the showroom for that ambition in the Pacific. The schedule now carries the weight of the entire program. The first pair of vehicles is expected around April 2027, with the final vehicle due late in 2028 and formal acceptance in 2029. They will equip the 3rd Armored Combat Brigade in Townsville, fighting alongside Boxer reconnaissance vehicles and M1A2 Abrams tanks. But two risks remain rated very high. Defense has recorded that all engineering options to reduce the fully laden vehicle mass without compromising capability have been exhausted, and that main weapon accuracy has not improved since the contract was executed. The remote weapon station that Defense mandated was flagged by Hanwha itself as the single most significant schedule risk, and a 2024 review recommended that alternatives be evaluated immediately. The project has been placed on Defense's watch list, and nearly $500,000 in penalty interest has already been paid on 19 late invoices. There is one final irony. Rheinmetall lost the infantry fighting vehicle contest. Then in 2024, won an order from Germany for 123 Boxer heavy weapon carriers worth 2.7 billion euros, built largely in Queensland, the largest defense export in Australian history. Australia chose the Redback because it was judged the better fighting vehicle, not the cheaper one, and the auditor has not disputed that judgment. What the auditor disputed is whether the government understood the risk it was accepting when it swapped a mature design for a developmental one and then demanded it 2 years early. The stakes are larger than 129 hulls. This is the vehicle that will carry Australian infantry into contact in the Pacific for the next 30 years. The first mechanized capability the Army has fielded that can actually fight rather than merely deliver, and the proof of whether a foreign design can be truly built and sustained on Australian soil. The M113 earned its reputation on a single afternoon in 1966 by arriving when it was needed. The Redback now has to do the same thing, on time, in 2027.